Hey up, it's Steve from the Old Yorkshire Geek. I'm here with a quick impromptu show, a quick news bite, I suppose you could say. So let's hit the intro and get on with it. I'm back. Right, so actually I've got this all, promised all this stuff and I forgot to set my things up. Cause I'm a silly old bugger, that's why. Where are we? There we go. Right. So here we go. So I've no plan tonight. I was bored basically. I was sat bored. I suppose I could be listening to this podcast that somebody sent to me. My good friend Marie sent me this podcast to listen to about conspiracies and stuff, but I'd have had to sign in to Audible to listen to it. So yeah, I couldn't be bothered. And I thought, I know, I'll do my own. So we're just doing a quick geeky podcast, a quick looking at the sci-fi news. Oh, I haven't got it up yet, have I? There we go. We'll just pick some stories at random. I haven't read them. Anything that catches my eye, I'll have a look at, and we'll go from there. By the way, don't forget to like and subscribe, and drop a comment in the comment section. Yeah. And use the notification bell and all that stuff. And I'm hitting things. There's me alien there. Yeah. And I put my flash review of She-Hulk episode 3 up today. It's only 30 seconds. That's why I call them flash reviews. Just quick reviews. And I've got to say, I don't think it's for me, She-Hulk. We're 3 episodes in, and it's I don't think I'm the target audience. But I'll keep watching. But I don't think it's going to get any better. But anyway, let's keep looking at this. Right, Jennifer Connelly joins Joel Edgerton in sci-fi series Dark Matter. I presume that's not the one that were created by ex-Stargate producers. Is it Joseph Malozzi and Brad Ryder? They did Dark Matter on the Sci-Fi Channel. It was a really good series, got cancelled after 3 seasons, I think. On a cliffhanger as well. Aliens were invading, and then it ended. But I don't think it's that. Let's keep looking, see if anything catches my eyes. Nothing there, is there? Right, so we'll just go straight to... We'll do some Star Trek news, eh? See if there's any Star Trek news. By the way, tonight is Lord of the Rings night. Here in the UK, it premieres at 2 a.m. At 2 a.m. Friday morning. I don't think I'll be staying up for it. I think we're getting 2 episodes. And I've heard some people say it's rubbish. I've heard some people say it's okay. And I've heard some people say it's amazing. It'll probably fall somewhere in between. Right, Terry Farrell. Oh, I did that the other week, didn't I? Not other day. But Terry Farrell wants to come back as Jadzia Dax. Terry Farrell should come back to Star Trek, but Jadzia Dax shouldn't. Ooh. Which is probably right, because Jadzia Dax died, didn't she? So they shouldn't bring back Jadzia Dax, because we've already got Ezri Dax. She could come back as, I don't know, Jadzia's twin sister or a relative that just happens to look like her. They could do that, couldn't they? What is it to be Harry Kimmed in a Star Trek series? I presume that means don't get promoted, because he spent 7 years on Voyager, stayed an ensign all that time. Even the jailbird, Tom Paris, got promoted above him. And demoted, and then promoted again. Unbelievable. Poor Harry. And he was the head of operations, the largest department on a starship. Still stays an ensign. I've never understood that. Because when he came on board, they said, our new operations officer. And I think, why are you handing up, the chief of operations to an ensign? On the Enterprise, D and the E, the head of operations was Data, Lieutenant Commander Data. So there you go. That shows you what an important department it is. You'd think, either a lieutenant commander or a full commander would be in charge of operations. Anyway, Star Trek Lower Decks, not interested. It's on episode 2 already, and I haven't watched it. Star Trek 4's best director choice is possible again. Oh, that's what. They're going back to Justin Lin. Let's have a look at this. Right, Star Trek 4's best director choice is possible again. Go away. I know I'm using an ad blocker. Because I don't like ads. Because I'm a commie. Right, Matt Shackman's exit and the sequel's long development now mean... I'm getting rid of that. It's getting on my nerves. Sorry. I put that there so I'm not blowing into the microphone, but it's doing me head in. Matt Shackman's exit and the sequel's long development now means Star Trek 4's best director choice is possible again, and it's Justin Lin. Remember, he directed Star Trek Beyond, which did have problems, but, I quite liked it. Mostly because of, I forgot her name, but the character was called Jailer, with a stripy, white face with a stripe, so that alien. The name of the actress now. Oh, she played the mummy, that terrible Tom Cruise film. She were in that. And she were in that film with Charlize Theron, blonde one, Atomic Blonde. That one, she was good in that as well. And she were in Kingsman, first Kingsman film. Right, Justin Lin is the best director choice for Star Trek 4, and the pairing is now possible once again. In the 6 years since Star Trek Beyond hit theatres, Paramount has struggled to get a sequel off the ground. It seemed the studio found its path forward by announcing Star Trek 4 was happening with WandaVision director Matt Shackman for a 2023 release. The news came with the reveal that Chris Pine, Zachary Quinto, Zoe Saldana and the rest of the recent cast members were returning, apart from Anthony Yelchin, because he's passed away. However, the sequel hit another roadblock with the news that Shackman left Star Trek 4, leaving the director's chair open. Paramount's multiple attempts to make a fourth Star Trek movie featuring the cast from J.J. Abrams' Kelvin timeline have repeatedly failed. Quentin Tarantino was originally courted to direct Star Trek 4 and make a very different entry in the franchise. Once it was clear that he was not going to make the movie, Jessica Jones's S.J. Clarkson and Legion's Noah Hawley took cracks at developing entries in the franchise. Shackman's exit directly conflicts with Paramount's clear hopes of making Star Trek 4 in the near future. While he was an exciting choice, the studio can now bring back someone already tied to the franchise. Now that Matt Shackman is directing Marvel's Fantastic Four instead of Star Trek 4, all the fours, Paramount's best director option is Justin Lin. He previously helmed... He previously helmed Star Trek Beyond for the studio, which disappointed at the box office but earned positive reviews. Yeah, well, good. I enjoyed it. It wasn't perfect. I hate the design of the Enterprise in the Kelvin timeline, Kelvin universe. It's terrible. And I didn't like the Yorktown station. It was just too big. It was too big for the technology of the 23rd century. It was just too fantastical for me. But anyway. Despite his time with Star Trek, Lin opted to return to the Fast and Furious franchise to make F9 next. He was even, you know what? I think I've only seen the first two of those. Yeah, I think I've seen the first two Fast and Furious films. And I haven't seen the rest. And the thing is, I quite enjoyed them first two films. I just never got round to watching all the others. What we're on now, number 9, I don't know. He was even attached to direct Fast X for Universal until creative differences emerged over the sequel. So, since he already left that major franchise, Justin Lin can now return for Star Trek 4. He's the perfect choice due to his established connection to the franchise, experience making massive sequels, and ability to deliver a crowd-pleasing blockbuster in a timely manner, allowing Paramount to avoid another Star Trek 4 delay. Oh, and there he is on the set with Chris Pine. That's Star Trek Beyond, obviously. While Star Trek Beyond might have been well received by critics and audiences, the narrative around the film has become more critical in recent years. This is primarily the result of Star Trek Beyond's poor box office performance. After Star Trek Into Darkness made almost $500 million worldwide, and it was bloody awful. Justin Lin's sequel only made $343 million, a low point for the trilogy. But they spent too much money on the films anyway. I mean, they were like $150 to like $180 million films, I think, something like that. They were really expensive films, and Star Trek films shouldn't cost that much. Because they wanted to make Star Wars films, that's what they were trying to, that's the audience they were going for. This was not Justin Lin's fault, though. At Star Trek Beyond, there's plenty of supporters who were excited to see what would come next. It only makes sense for Justin Lin to direct Star Trek 4 now. There are no reports linking Justin Lin to the sequel, but it would not be surprising if he had an interest in returning. Star Trek 4 would give him another chance to play in the sci-fi franchise's sandbox and advance the timeline well after Star Trek Beyond. He might also be eager to tackle another big blockbuster after walking away from Fast X, as Lin would not have to deal with a demanding star on Star Trek 4. Only time will tell who ultimately gets the job next, but hopefully Paramount realises Justin Lin is Star Trek 4's best director. It probably would be. But there's lots of directors out there that give it a good crack, but not Quentin Tarantino. Oh, God, yawn. Where can that come from? Oh, good heavens above. Right, so yeah, that's interesting. I'll put the links in the description so you can have a look for yourself. What Raffi Musica taught me about traumatic grief. Oh, God. She's from Picard. You know, the crap Starfleet officer. She's a terrible Starfleet officer. Somehow she's a commander. God knows how she got that. God knows. Star Trek 2, The Wrath of Khan review. That's at the cinemas again now. I tried persuading my son to go with me to see it, but he won't. He won't. Terry Matalas, or Matalas, but I like to say Matalas, just keeps talking about Star Trek Picard Season 3. Right, let's see what he's got to say. Let's see if he's putting his foot in his mouth like they usually do. Like Terry Matalas just keeps talking about Star Trek 3, Picard Season 3, and there he is. September 1st, 2022, that's today. Happy New September, everybody. Continuing with our upcoming Star Trek Picard Season 3 teasers, Terry Matalas shares how we'll see that Picard has grown even more as a character over the course of Seasons 1 and 2. He says that Season 3 could not have been done unless a version of Seasons 1 and 2 had happened. The character of Jean-Luc Picard is closer to the person that we left off with in Star Trek The Next Generation's final episode, All Good Things, but older and wiser in his later synthetic years. Yes, because remember, he's dead. Captain Picard, or Admiral Picard, is dead. He died at the end of Season 1 and they shoved his consciousness in a robot body. So basically, they recorded his memories and put him in a robot body. That's what they've done. So he's an AI. He is. So he's dead. This is just a facsimile. God, I hate it. That was a ping. Somebody just sent me a message. I wonder what somebody's sending me a message about. Anyway. Synthetic years. Discovering that the most important part of his life isn't necessarily related to your job, but rather to your family. Yeah, because his mother hanged herself. Season 2. Even though he's seen her in Season 1 of The Next Generation as an old lady. In like a fantasy way, you know. They went to the edge of the universe, and so they saw things from their minds. It made manifest in this, fantastical part of the universe. But if she'd killed herself when he were young, and when she were young, why did he see her as an old lady? Well, we wanted to wish that she had been an old lady. Why did he give her a French accent then when she didn't have one in... Matalas also said that Season 3 will return to more of the humour that was seen in TNG. He certainly brought up how there is more family in the upcoming season, but then elaborated that what we'll be seeing is not necessarily what fans have already come up with in their minds. It is the story of a family coming together. Yeah, but he didn't want them in Season 1, did he? They forced him to accept Riker and Troy, but he didn't want any of the Next Generation casting. It was all about him. I'm getting mad now because I hate it that much. Anyway, this is a tough thing to do. With respect to that, I remember watching Star Wars The Force Awakens, and I found it really jarring that they weren't all hanging out still. I was like, wait, Luke Skywalker's on an island, and Han and Leia had a divorce, and their son is a Sith. It's not a Sith. And even R2-D2 is miserable and depressed and sleeping. Well, yeah, that's it. He wasn't in it, was he? And they gave 3PO a red arm. They gave the Falcon a square dish on top. You know why? For merchandising, because J.J. Abrams is a greedy bastard. And it took a bit to get my mind around at all. That's not what's happening here. I think the hard part for some fans will be, hey, the thing that I thought in my head was that the Next Gen cast gets together for Thanksgiving every year. That doesn't happen and hasn't happened. And why would they get together for Thanksgiving? What's Thanksgiving got to do with the Federation? That's like a United States of America thing. But it's like it's Earth, in it now. I know there is still them areas, them countries, I suppose you could call them, but they're not. They're just parts of Earth, aren't they? Regions on Earth. They're not sovereign states anymore. That doesn't happen and hasn't happened, and why and how, and is that a good story? So your preconceptions over the last 20 years of novels and rewatching the series might send you to an expectation that's not quite where we go here. That's not to say you won't get those feelings again, certainly by the end, but there's going to be some surprises as to what they're being up to. He also says that Riker will be a blast this year. There will be the familiar humour that we came to love in TNG, and that Picard and Riker become Season 3's Butch and Sundance. They're going to get shot to death at the end of the Bolivian army. He said that this is what he felt was missing in the first 2 years, and that in writing Season 3 and knowing that Jonathan Frakes is hilarious, he wanted to write to his voice and use it for the character of Riker. We see a Riker who is no longer Picard's number one, has been a captain himself, and is re-establishing with characters he hasn't seen in a long time. For example, Worf, or as my mum used to say, Waff, is different from the last time we see him. Thank God he looks the same. Thank God they haven't made him, Klingork, like we saw in Discovery. Thank goodness. And Riker becomes the audience's voice with the "what's going on here" reactions. Matalas, also promises a new character who is a smart aleck that appears and will become a fan favourite by the time the series is over. It's not your decision, that, mate. Terry. Sorry, it's up to the audience to decide who becomes a fan favourite. You can't say that. I mean, look. Remember what George Lucas said about Jar Jar Binks. It all revolved around Jar Jar Binks. If he didn't work, it was over. And he didn't work. That's the character. Nothing to do with what's his face that voiced him and motion captured him. I forgot his name now. I told you. Never mind. This journalist is guessing it will be LaForge's daughter. Oh, yes, she's in it, isn't she? Played by his own daughter. What is up with my brain tonight? I don't know. And the hopeful spin-off series mentioned previously. Oh, God. It looks like there would be much to look forward to in Season 3 of Picard, which has not yet had an exact announced air date, but is being reported as coming in 2023. For further details, set a course to tripmovie.com, blah, 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 blah. So there we go. So that's very interesting. But I've heard it's good. Robert Burnett says he's seen it. So it must be coming soon if he's seen it. And he says it's good, so hopefully it is. But Robert Burnett seems to have mellowed in his old age. Sorry, not that you're old, Robert. You're the same age as me. Actually, you're a couple of months older than me. So we're both old fogies. Right. Anything else? We saw that, read that the other day in the shelves. Nichols is going into deep space on a Vulcan rocket on the Enterprise flight, they're calling it, along with James Doohan and Gene Roddenberry and Majel Barrett Roddenberry. And I think that's it. But they're off into deep space, 300 million kilometres into space, which is cool. Well, part of their ashes and some DNA. Is that it? Is that all we're going to get, really? For interesting news. How Wrath of Khan changed Star Trek forever. Well, it did, really, because... let's have a look at that. We'll do this one, and then we'll call it a draw. So it's been a Star Trek day today, hasn't it? What the heck? How Wrath of Khan changed Star Trek forever. I don't think that's actually from Wrath of Khan. I believe that may be from Star Trek 5. But anyway. It says there on the set of Star Trek Wrath of Khan. I'm not sure if it is, I'm not sure if it is. But it might be. I don't know. What do I know? 40 years ago, Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, was released and became an instant classic among the science fiction franchise's fan base. Captain Kirk, William Shatner, pardon me, I'm at it again, and the crew of the USS Enterprise faced off against Khan, Noonien Singh, Ricardo Montalban, a man driven mad with the need for vengeance who commandeers the Starship Reliant in order to kill Kirk. Admiral Kirk. A breathtaking movie decades on, we look into why the second movie in the franchise, returning to UK cinemas this weekend, changed Star Trek forever. To the last I grapple with thee. And it's his own chest, it is. It's really his chest. It's not rubber. Herman Melvin's Moby Dick is a very clear inspiration for the story, both literally, through quotes, and in Khan's parallels with Captain Ahab. Sorry, I can see one of me... my moustache hairs catching my eye. I need to trim it. It's there again, look. So every time I look up, I can see it. But I look down again, it disappears. Bizarre. Director Nicholas Meyer also wove naval elements into the visuals of the movie, something that hadn't been done as directly as before. Apparently that's because he went to Roddenberry and said, well, Star Trek, Captain Kirk is just Horatio Hornblower, and Roddenberry kind of, said, yes, he is. So that's why he went with all the naval things and all that. From the uniform redesign to the climactic battle, which is ship versus ship rather than the two men facing off. They didn't even have a scene together in the same studio. They only saw each other on the view screens. They never acted with each other. It says there, Kirk and Khan never meet face-to-face in the movie. The bridges of the Enterprise and the Reliant, Khan's commandeered ship, which is where Chekhov was the first officer under Captain Tyrrell, were the same set redressed, with Shatner and Montalban shooting their scenes months apart. What was a cost-cutting measure actually adds to the naval feel, with two captains cursing each other from across the expanse. Montalban made Khan one of the most memorable villains in the franchise's history. A returning character from the series' 1967 episode Space Seed, he blames Kirk for personal tragedy and views Kirk's heroics from a skewed perspective. He is undoubtedly the driving force of the film, and given the first film, Star Trek the Motion Picture, lacked any clear antagonist, apart from that V'ger, but that was like a machine, wasn't it? Set a trend for the Enterprise to face off against a singular nemesis. I have been, and always shall be, your friend. You're not crying. Aside from the title character, that's from Star Trek 2, because he's got his book, is it A Tale of Two Cities? I think it's A Tale of Two Cities. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. Message, Spock? None that I'm aware of, except, of course, happy birthday. Surely the best of times. Sorry, I can't do an impression of Leonard Nimoy. Aside from the title character, Mr. Spock, Leonard Nimoy plays an integral part in the story. Always at Kirk's side throughout the series, their friendship had never been explored as thoroughly as it had in this film. Early in the film, Spock gives a typically frank assessment of Kirk's malaise, finding the life away from a starship unfulfilling. However, he follows this up with reassurance. You are my superior officer. You are also my friend. I have been and always shall be yours. One of the film's themes is growing older, offering a chance to examine these two characters that were synonymous with each other. And there's Spock sacrificing himself to save the Enterprise, getting the warp drive back online. Nimoy would echo the above quote in the finale as Spock sacrifices himself to save the Enterprise crew. In a scene of heartbreaking intimacy, he says goodbye to Kirk, separated by glass. Or transparent aluminum. Spock's death was included because Nimoy was reluctant to return and would only do so if it were to say goodbye. Ironically, the scene was so effective that popular demand convinced him to come back in 1984 Star Trek III, The Search for Spock. Because I think Nicholas Meyer suggested he finds a way, so if he did decide to come back, they could do it. So that's why they did the old remember thing, where he passes his catcher on to Bones. I don't like to lose. No, that's with David, Marcus, Kirk's son, who recognised this as it's the Genesis wave, so it's on a build up to trying to build up to Dead Nation. This focus on others also gave Admiral Kirk his strongest arc yet. In the series, he seemed infallible, a heroic captain who always knew what to do. Here, entering his 50s, the youthful explorer became a man grappling with his past. It's a look at the mindset of a man who, to his own admission, doesn't like to lose, symbolised at the beginning by the Kobayashi Maru simulation, an unwinnable test for Starfleet recruits that Kirk recalls cheating on in order to win. We saw that done terribly in J.J. Abrams' Star Trek, 2009 Star Trek. We saw how he cheated. He got the lovely Orion woman to upload something to the computer that would make him win, but I don't think Kirk could have done that. The film then introduces this unbeatable hero to circumstances in which he has no recourse. He meets David Merritt Butrick. Sorry if I've pronounced that wrong. The son he never knew he had. They did though, didn't he? Because he recognised him, didn't he? He said when he nearly beats him up, he says, "Is that David?" So he knows who he is. Who despises him for who he is, my life that could have been and wasn't, Kirk laments. Because he says to Carol, doesn't he? Says, I did what you asked, I stayed away. So he knew he had a son, but she'd asked him to stay away from him for whatever reason. Obviously, it wasn't a happy split. How do I feel? Old, worn out. It's a striking moment for a man who had seemed immortal for so many years. His impulsiveness and daring had come at the cost of those closest to him. With Spock's death, this film became Kirk's personal Kobayashi Maru. And then again in Star Trek III, David had been killed, wouldn't he, on the command of, on the orders of Commander Krug, the Klingon, played by Christopher Lloyd. A wonderful performance from Shatner would inspire many other films to look at the personal regrets of captains. Kirk's prejudices were portrayed in Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country, 1991, while his successor, Jean-Luc Picard, Patrick Stewart, would face familial regret in 1994 Star Trek Generations. Oh, yes, his brother and his nephew was killed in a fire. And past trauma in 1996 as Star Trek First Contact. Because obviously with the Borg, because he'd been assimilated before, hadn't he, in the best of both worlds. The Wrath of Khan was one of the first Star Trek stories to add depth and humanity to the spectacle. And this is Spock's burial. Spock's body's in there. And they send him to they just eject him into space, basically, and he soft lands on the Genesis planet. And there's the lovely Kirstie Alley as Savick. And we see her all teary-eyed because apparently originally she was supposed to be half Romulan. But they changed that. Which is why she seemed to struggle keeping her emotions under check. But they didn't go on with that. Right, while less financially successful than its predecessor, is that true? I didn't know that. The Wrath of Khan is far more influential. Star Trek the motion picture is remembered as a muddled affair. It's amazing. But it's not exactly, a laugh-a-minute and action-packed, is it? But it's still an amazing film. As a muddled affair that hasn't lasted the test of time. I disagree. The Wrath of Khan, by contrast, was a fast-paced, swashbuckling adventure that set the bar for Starfleet movies. Well, yeah, it was. And it stayed as Star Trek. It stayed Star Trek, even though it was action-packed and it had space battles. I didn't like the phasers. Didn't like the phasers. I like beamy phasers, not pulsy phasers, but you know. That's probably where bloody Kurtzman got his inspiration from. And JJ. Anyway, it could be argued that elements of Khan's plot have been echoed in films ever since, particularly deaths of beloved characters, Kirk in 1996's Generations. It was fun. Data in 2001's Nemesis. I can't remember what song he sings now. Anyway, he sings that song, doesn't he? Blue Sky, Thingy-my-bob. That one, he sings that, doesn't he? Irving Berlin. And 2013 Star Trek Into Darkness was practically a Wrath of Khan remake, and it was crap. It was diabolical. Numerous fan surveys and critical polls consistently place it as the best Star Trek film ever made, and 4 decades on, audiences still flock to cinemas to prove that point. Yes, I'd be flocking if my lad had flock with me, but he won't. And I think this is the trailer, isn't it? This is the trailer. How's it going for? Oh, no. We won't watch it, probably get a copyright strike. Go away. So there we go. So yes, it's an amazing film. You know what? I might watch it now. When I've done this, I'm going to put it on. Because it must have been, it must be a year since I've seen it. Right, we'll leave it there. A quick half an hour one. This is a news bite. Close that. As I said, I'll put the links in the description. And we'll leave it there. I haven't even got me backdrop, have I? I haven't got my curtain. And I haven't got me green screeny one, you know, that's got the logo on, because I couldn't be bothered. I couldn't be bothered with it. So you're looking at my living room there. There is no ghost up behind me. That's a dressing gown and other things on the back of the door. It's not a figure that's going to get me. Well, I hope it ain't. Right, we'll leave it there. So, wherever you are in the universe, where's my thingy-my-bob? It's there. Wherever you are in the universe, look after each other. And until next time, I'll see thee.